Today we are going to learn about the DDoS trends, recent DDoS trends, what is happening across the world, what kind of DDoS attacks are happening. We will learn about AWS Shield variants. We will learn more about AWS Shield Advanced. We will also see into different type of DDoS attacks. We will see what's the AWS Shield record-breaking DDoS prevention looks like. And then we will jump into the demo where we'll try to set up our own AWS Shield Advanced to protect the resources. And finally, we will conclude this session with the best practices that you need to follow to ensure the best possible protection for your application uptime. In this slide, you can see the different DDoS trends are being shown here. This is taken from ZDNet. Here you can see what kind of different attacks started in what year, and on top of every attack you can see the amplification factor mentioned. So the maximum you can see in the year 2018, which is memcached attack, the amplification factor is 10,000 to 5.1 million. It's huge. So even with smaller set of servers, or the attacker was able to initiate huge DDoS attack. So to provide protection from such DDoS attacks, AWS has a product called Shield, which comes in two flavors. Let's quickly discuss the different flavors of Shield product. One is Shield Basic and second is Shield Advanced. Shield Basic product is the built-in DDoS protection for everyone. It comes bundled with the AWS product. So the moment you are using AWS services, you are protected from the basic Shield product. Now it has a static threshold for DDoS protection for underlying AWS services. That means if you want any customization to protect your application from DDoS attack, that will not happen. They will have a static threshold which they use to mitigate the ongoing DDoS attack, and then you get the advantage out of it. This is mainly for protection of the underlying infrastructure, and there is no additional cost for using Shield Basic. Shield Advanced is a paid product which comes with a subscription of $3,000 a month for 12 months of minimum commitment at the time of recording this session. It is a managed DDoS protection product. It provides advanced protection. With the help of a specialized team, they are able to provide you managed mitigation. It protects your application from layer 3 to layer 7 of DDoS attacks. It comes bundled with WAF and Firewall Manager product. There is cost surge protection available, and you will have more visibility into the attacks. So while doing the demo, I will show you how you can create your own dashboard or how you can have the visibility into ongoing DDoS attacks. Let's learn more about Shield Advanced features that we discussed. So it's an advanced managed DDoS mitigation service. That means the management part is on AWS side. You will have visibility into the attacks, and you will be notified using different SNS topics that you will be creating during the setup. Whatever DDoS attack traffic you are getting, you can create alarms on the basis of those attacks. Different CloudWatch matrices are available. These are very granular CloudWatch matrices which measures what kind of attack you are getting, what's the scale of attack you are having, and if the DDoS attack is detected, separate CloudWatch matrix called DDoS detected, which has the value of 0 by default, and when the attack is in place, if the attack is detected, the value becomes 1. They provide proactive as well as reactive support. So they have a specialized team, they call it DDoS response team or Shield response team. They are managing all the DDoS attack mitigation. So they work in proactive mode as well as reactive mode. So using different tweaks that you do during the product's configuration, you can provide the contact, you can provide the contact number, email ID, and when there is a DDoS attack detected, they will start working proactively. As well as there is reactive support available, where you detect that something is wrong with your application, with the application's uptime, or you find something is suspicious in your application, or you find something not good with your application and it might be attack, you can reach out to the support team and they will work with you to mitigate such attacks. Then next point is cost surge protection. That means if during the attack it happens that you have to scale up your infrastructure, you have auto scaling policies which got kicked in and it generated increase on the bill of your AWS account. Don't worry for that. After the attack, you can claim this increase in the bill to AWS. Hence, you don't need to worry about cost surge. Now, Shield Advanced is a product which provides you protection from layer 3 to layer 7 DDoS attack. And for layer 7 protection, they use web application firewall. Thus, when you are protecting a resource with Shield Advanced, and if you're using WAF for that particular resource, WAF becomes free of cost, as well as the firewall manager will also not cost you anything. Very important point. Just subscribing to Shield doesn't mean that your WAF is free. You have to protect your application with Shield Advanced, then only WAF becomes free. Now, post the attack, there is a detailed DDoS report available, which you can see to do the analysis of what happened during the attack. You will have access to top ASN numbers, top IPs, top user agents, on many granular details, which tells you what kind of attack it was. You need to have at least business support active in your account to avail the best possible support from the DDoS response team. Now, there is health checks which you can configure with Route 53, which is helpful in detecting and mitigating the DDoS attack in a faster manner. So the moment your application is not healthy, it generates alarms, and on the basis of those alarms, the mitigation process becomes faster. Now, you can protect individual resources, or you can protect a group of resources together. We are going to see this in detail while doing the demo. Now, let's discuss what's the different type of DDoS attacks possible. So this is representing the 7 layers of OSI, starting from physical layer, data link layer, network, transport, session, presentation, and application. So physical and data link layer is managed and operated by AWS, and hence you don't need to worry about that. In terms of transport and network layer attacks, you have attacks like SYNACT flood, UDP flood, different kind of reflection attacks, ping of death, ICMP flood, and teardrop attacks. Now, for application, presentation, and session layer, you have different attacks like HTTP flood, app exploits, SQL injection, the bots, the crawlers, the different kind of SSL abuse attacks. So all these attacks can be protected with Shield Advanced product. Now, in the first quarter 2020, AWS Shield mitigated 2.3 Tbps of huge DDoS attack. AWS did not mention which customer it was for, but many media houses covered this attack, and this was done very silently. It did not create any havoc across internet, mainly because of the way AWS mitigate these attacks. So AWS uses a very distributed infrastructure for mitigating those DDoS attacks. It uses CloudFront POPs, and all these CloudFront POPs are housed with something called CloudWatch DDoS protection agents. These CloudWatch DDoS protection agents are running across all the POPs, and hence when there is an attack happening on AWS customer, these distributed POP infrastructure mitigate these attacks in very effective manner. Now, unlike the traditional DDoS protection vendors, which use scrubbing farms to send the traffic to a remote location or a remote data center scrubbing farm, and then send the clean traffic back to origin, this does not require any such mechanism. The advantage, even during the attack, there is no increase in the latency number for the end users. While in the traditional DDoS mitigation process, during the attack, even the genuine traffic are penalized because of spike in the latencies. They also required you to have your own IP block, which is essentially not required with AWS Shield Advanced product. When you're using CloudFront, you can just make a simple DNS change and route your traffic to CloudFront, and all the mitigation will happen right at the edge of internet, which is AWS POPs. Now, time to move to the demo where we are going to enable Shield Advanced. We will configure the different rules, and we will finally do the analysis what are the different things we have done there. So this is how the default screen looks like when you log into WAF and Shield product. By default, it will take you to WAF. You have to come down and click on AWS Shield, and first is getting started. Once you click on getting started, it will ask you to subscribe to the Shield Advanced if you have not done so. At the bottom of the screen, please note that the cost is $3,000 plus there is additional cost for data transfer fee. I have already subscribed to AWS Shield Advanced product here, hence it shows subscribed. Let's go to the next section, which is AWS Shield Overview. Here you can see there are various steps mentioned, step 1, 2, 3, and then other steps are SRT support and proactive engagement, etc. So first step we have already completed, which is Shield Advanced subscription. Second step is add the resources that you want to protect. Remember, I told you that just enabling Shield Advanced doesn't mean that all your resources are protected with DDoS attacks. You have to manually add the resources by clicking Add Resources to Protect. You can do it here, or you can go to Protected Resource section and add the resources manually. The third step is configure AWS SRT support. Now this is a step where you authorize AWS Shield Response Team or DDoS Response Team to access your Shield and your WAF APIs which is running in your account. This allows them to mitigate the DDoS attacks in your account. You can click on Edit SRT Access and it will give you the option that you need to create a role if you have not created so, and then give the role name. I will give SRT-access. And next step is optional, where you need to grant SRT team the access to your Amazon S3 bucket. This is an optional step now. It used to be a mandatory step, but recently AWS launched a functionality where it is not mandatory to provide the read access to your S3 bucket. So I'll leave it as it is and click on Save. Now my step 3 is also completed now. Then it shows you the summary of what kind of DDoS attack that happened over the past year and how many resources I have protected with Shield Advanced. Right now there is only one CloudFront resource already protected here. I'll go ahead and show you what additional steps are required. Next is AWS SRT support. You need to actually provide them access to your account so that they are able to mitigate DDoS attack effectively. This was done in the previous step where we were creating a role here. And finally, for proactive engagements, you need to define which contact they should use when there is a DDoS detected. You need to click on Edit Proactive Engagement feature. So before doing so, you need to provide the contact list. I'll go ahead and add my contact email here. And the final step is to enable proactive engagement. You can click on Enable and click on Save, and that's it. Your account is now enabled with proactive engagement. Please note that for enabling proactive engagement, you should have at least business support active in your account, if not enterprise support. Once you are done with all these steps, move to the next one, which is protected resources. Here, you can either protect a resource individually, or you can create a protection group to protect the resource as a group. So the difference is that when you protect an individual resource, all the traffic baselining and properties of your traffic is measured as a property basis. But if you create a group, for example, if you have multiple environments serving your production domain and you are maybe doing A/B testing between two different domains, but eventually they both represent your production traffic. So it doesn't matter whether A is having 5%, B is having 95%, tomorrow it might change to 50-50. Even though there is a massive deviation in a traffic pattern, but eventually A plus B represents your entire production traffic. Hence, you can club them together and create a group by clicking on Create Protection Group. Give the name, choose the members, and finally save it. I have already created a protection group called API Protection, which is shown here. And if you want to add a protected resource, click on AWS Resource to Protect. Now, depending upon what kind of resource you want to protect, whether you want to protect a regional resource or a global resource, the list will be shown at the bottom of the screen. So if you want to have only CloudFront protected with Shield Advanced, you can uncheck rest of the boxes and only select CloudFront distribution and click on Load Resource. It will then load all the resources at the bottom of the screen. I'll go ahead and click on Select Resource, and finally I'll click on Protect with Shield Advanced. Now next step is to configure layer 7 DDoS mitigation using AWS WAF. So please make sure that you already have a WAF configuration created with rate limit rules in your account. I've already created a WAF configuration in my account. If you want to create your own WAF configuration and you have any questions or doubt, I will leave a tutorial link in the description box where you can refer and learn and create your own WAF rules. So I'll click on drop down and I will just select a WAF rule here. It asks me to add rate limit rule here. I will just select rule name testing demo. Rate limit I will say 100, and if someone crosses this limit for a period of 5 minutes of time, I'm going to block them. And finally click on next. Here is the place where I need to associate my health check, which is Route 53 health check associated with my origin, to link with this particular distribution health. I'll click on this, click on next, and finally it shows me the SNS topic where some alarms will be triggered to. Since I have already configured SNS topic, it's showing me the pre-existing configuration. But if you have not done that, it will show you, it will ask you to add a SNS topic here. I'll click on next. Finally, it shows the summary, and then click on finish configuration. Now the resource is protected with Shield Advanced. Next tab is events tab. Here is a place where all the previously DDoS events are captured. Since in my account I don't have any DDoS attack in the past, hence it's not showing anything. But if I would have any DDoS attack in the past detected by Shield Advanced, it would have been shown here. Next is Global Threat Dashboard. This is a dashboard which shows what is happening across the globe with AWS customers, what kind of attack is happening, what's the scale of the attack is. You can select the time range from this drop down. Example here, for the last 2 weeks, the largest packets per second attack was 200 Mbps, and the largest bitrate was 598 Gbps, and most common attack is SYN flood. Threat level is normal, it's usual, and total number of DDoS attacks were 117k. You can check the events in the last 2 weeks, and many additional components mentioned here, which shows the matrices related with MPPS, GBPS, and KRPS. This is the overview about Shield Advanced. Next, let's see the visibility into the DDoS attacks. We will go into CloudWatch matrices and we will view what all matrices are present. Let's type CloudWatch here. Click on CloudWatch. And we'll go ahead and create a new dashboard. Create a dashboard. Give the name as DDoS demo. Click on create dashboard. Next, I'm going to add some widgets which will show me the stats. I'll select line widget here for demo. Select the matrices, configure, and finally I will select DDoS protection. It will be measured by CloudWatch. Now you can either select different groups based on the attack vectors, or you can select based on the different ARNs or different resources that you are protecting. Now if you see the different attack vectors, it measures ACK flood, acknowledgement flood, charge and reflection, DNS reflection, fine flood, generic UDP reflection, HTTP reflection, and many more. So depending upon your need and your understanding, you can create multiple widgets and have it added in your dashboard for monitoring purposes. So once you create the widget, it will look something like this, where whenever there is some attack is happening in the account and it is measured by Shield Advanced, it will show the stats here. Right now there is no production traffic, no traffic at all in my account, hence it's not showing anything. Now this was the demo I wanted to show it to you. Hope you understood how to protect your resources with Shield Advanced product and where to add the resources, what are the different steps involved with Shield Advanced configuration. Once you configure everything, it will take some time for Shield Advanced to understand the traffic pattern, and then it will be in a better shape to provide you managed protection. Once you do the setup, you can always check with the Shield response team, ask them to review the setup that you have. So now let's discuss about the best practices. The very first and most important point is, wherever possible, use CloudFront to reduce the attack surface area. That means if you are using CloudFront, you are actually reducing the surface area. How? Because you are only allowing port 80 and port 443 to be connected. Rest of the ports are not supported at CloudFront. Plus, CloudFront only supports HTTP, HTTPS, and WebSockets protocol. So if someone is trying to do TCP or UDP flood, it is protected by CloudFront itself. And your origin can only allow CloudFront servers to connect to them. Hence, you are able to reduce the surface area of the attack. Always use elasticity of the load balancer to handle fluctuation. So if you're using application load balancer and there is an increase in traffic, the ALBs will automatically scale up to handle that spike for you. Behind ALBs, you might be running many compute servers, and hence always use auto scaling for compute scalability, so that if during the attack you have to scale up your infrastructure, somehow it's handled by the auto scaling policies. Always secure your application with security groups and access control lists. In this manner, you allow which application can talk to what other application on what subnets, what traffic is allowed, what is not allowed. Then you can enable relevant CloudWatch matrices for monitoring purpose. So if anyhow some alarm is also detected, you will be notified and you will have the visibility in what is happening in your account. Always try to enable logs for deeper analysis. So after the event, you can always go back and look into the logs to see what happened, how something happened, how someone exploited, or what happened during the attack scenario. Always use Web Application Firewall for layer 7 protection. Now, if you want to know more about AWS Firewall, if you want to really learn in deep, I have already created a tutorial on AWS WAF. I will leave the link in the description so that later you can go there and learn about WAF from basic up to a level that you are able to provide a baseline security of layer 7 to your applications. Then for protecting you from layer 7 attacks, WAF provides you rate limit rules. So configure these rate limit rules effectively. You can have multiple match criteria. You can have different rate limits for different countries. Example, if my target audience is in India, I can have higher rate limits for Indian users. At the same time, I can have a very strict or lower rate limits if the traffic is coming outside of India. Then you have different WAF rules for IP reputation and all, where you can match on different countries and have combined rule mixed with the managed rules available. Now, always configure Shield Advanced properly for anomaly detection. If you have enabled Shield Advanced properly, and if there is any abnormality in the traffic, it will be detected and mitigated faster with the help of Shield Advanced. And finally, configure health checks for faster detection and mitigation. So using Route 53 health checks, you can let the Shield Advanced know this application is up and running or it's having some issue. In that manner, if your application is going down, the system will detect the attacks in a faster manner and the mitigation will be even faster. Now, I will highly recommend you to go ahead and read this white paper on DDoS from AWS. I'm going to leave the same link in the description. Whenever you have time, go through it. It is very nicely written document which will explain a lot of things that we discussed today in detail. With this, I will conclude today's session. Hope you learned something good out of it. Please do not forget to subscribe to my channel.